Welcome. In this small tutorial I will show you how you can quickly and rather efficiently set up a rig for a spider or any insect at this point in Blender, port it over to Unreal Engine, and even use a full body IK or inverse kinematics so you can animate it pretty efficiently as well. So this is basically the default setup. It's not completely default, as you can see. The ground is a little bit different. It looks a bit bigger. That is because the first problem that we will encounter is scale. The scale from Blender to Unreal Engine is a bit wacky, and if you if you made something in Blender once and ported it over to Unreal Engine, you will notice that it is quite small. But there's an easy fix to that. As you can see, I scaled it up by 50. So the dimensions of it are 100 meters by 100 meters by 100 meters. If I would to export this as it is, import it into Unreal Engine, as you can see, the blue one is the one I just imported. It is the exact same size as the default cube that you can find in Unreal Engine. So we'll basically start by putting this to the side. We're gonna need this later. And I got this here spider model from, I put the link for it into the description. It's a free model. It's a very low poly model. As you can see, it is much smaller than the default cube now is. And it comes with these things that we will not need, so we will just delete them. It is a little bit off center, so we'll just reset this. And the first thing is we're gonna see if those legs are, since we didn't make it ourselves, we have to check some things. So first of all, we're gonna put this up here. Then one quick and simple thing we can do is add a plane. This makes it much easier to see if the legs are all on the ground, and it does not look like they are. So we'll do some slight alteration so they will actually, okay, let me just go to the other side. Okay, cube, never mind, you'll be gone for a second there. There we go. Align the feet to the ground as much as possible. Okay, now the plane can go again. Didn't really need that one. And then this is just a stylistic choice. You can keep them as you want, but I'll open this up. You can see it's very low poly. I chose this because first of all, the low poly design is better for my game. It is much easier to animate, and it is much easier to set up the rig for it because we don't need weight painting for this. I personally hate weight painting, but we don't need it for this one. We can just manually set all the weights, which is much easier since we only have a few vertices to set. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these. Okay, first of all, we're gonna set dish so we can actually see all of them and select all of them. Can press N at center, and then we'll have a spike instead of a flat foot part. You can leave it as it is. I just like doing this. So I'm gonna do this for all of these. Bam. Merge at center, merge at center, merge at center, and we've got them all. Then we'll go to our side view or front view again. And then we'll just see to it that they are all basically on the ground. Doesn't have to be too perfect, but the more precise we're doing this step, the more precise our animation or our inverse kinematic will be later on. So we'll just set them all down. All right, and that looks good. Okay, another thing we can do is right now it is normal texture, a normal boring skin texture. So we'll just get that one. Oops. Spiders are usually black, in games at least. I want the black one too. So we'll make it black, and then one thing we can add as well to give it some flares is some small eyes. You don't have to do it, you can do it, but I like doing that. So we'll use a stinky normal UV sphere. First thing we're gonna do is, we can leave it at that. That's fine, we don't need a high poly version anyway, because low poly again. What we're gonna do is add a mirror for it. Move it over to the side. Whoops. Oh, why is it not being mirrored? Hello? Am I dumb? Oh, obviously, yeah. I forgot the mirror only works inside the edit mode. Okay, add a mirror to it. Then we're gonna, oops, change that around something like 90 degrees. Make the margin smaller. And then we're gonna put them right here. Right where they belong. Angle them a bit so they don't look too weird when all 8 of them are gonna look into the same direction. Make it look somewhat okay. Then we'll just copy that, make it a bit small, add them up here, change the eye angle a little bit again. Have them be set a little halfway into the skull. Copy that again. Give me that. Make them much smaller this time. And one last time. So we're gonna end up with our 8 eyes, 8 legs, 8 eyes. That just sounds nice. And bam, we got our 8 eyes. We're only gonna mirror the x-axis. Otherwise we're gonna have some more eyes on the ass over there. Don't want that. When this looks good to you, you can just go ahead, apply that, and we have some eyes. Better thing if we add a new material to it. And make them red. And now we have some big and small eyes on our spider. Okay, not a real deal. Now we're actually gonna add a skeletal mesh. But before that, we're gonna go ahead and grab our cube again. And we remember this is a normal cube size inside of the Unreal Engine. So we wanna scale this to whatever dimension you're gonna need. If you want a very tiny spider, then you can, I guess, leave it as it is. But if you want like a player-sized spider, you wanna scale this up so it matches the size appropriately. So we're gonna have this come over here and just scale it up to have it around the same size. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna have this one. See to it that the X is about 100 meters, and that should be fine. And then once again, move the legs the body up so all the legs are gonna touch the ground. And now we can see we did some tomfoolery here. Wait, what? Okay. Well, that's fine. All touching the ground. That's good for me. And now we can get rid of this boy. We won't need it anymore. Oh, never mind. I forgot the eyes, which is no problem. We're gonna just control click these boys. Sadly, they won't scale, so we'll have to do it once again. Go all the way back until it's small again. Have the eyes again. Okay. Click the eyes, control, click on the spider. Shift, no, control, and then J for join, and boom, they're on one mesh. Both of the materials are joined and there's one mesh as well, so that's good again. And now we can once again scale it up, so the X is on something, X dimensions on something 100, somewhere right there. Move the feet up. This time I'm checking this direction. That's fine by me. Okay, now I can see. Now we can finally delete this for real. I don't know why this plane is here. Get rid of it. And now we can go ahead and Shift A at the armature. It's very tiny, as we can see. So we'll have to do the same thing for it and scale it up. Okay, let's go 20 for now, and it's right there. 25. Okay, let's go all the way up to 30. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, we can keep it like that. Okay, now that we got the scales and the dimensions set up as we need them, one thing we have to do is Control A on our spider. Set since there's some rotation involved, we're gonna just set all the transforms. So the scale is gonna be applied. The scale is 1 now, 1, 1, 1. So it's gonna be transferred 1 to 1 like this into Unreal. The rotation is set and the location is set as well as we need it. It should be somewhere around the center, and this looks fine. So now we do the same thing to our armature. Here it's enough if we just set the scale. So now we can go ahead, depending on what you would rather like. You can use the wireframe view or just this one with the toggle X-ray activated so you can see through it. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to. I like to use a wireframe for this. So now we go into the edit mode of the armature. So this is our main bone, as you can see. We already have just one bone, the armature as well. One thing Unreal Engine does not like for some reason is naming conventions are very important to it. So first of all, we're just gonna go ahead and oops, that's my call this our spider mesh. And this is our spider armature. And for one thing, I don't know if they changed it in the later versions of Unreal Engine, but it had a problem where it did not like this specifically being called armature. So I personally just go ahead and call it either the root bone or something else. Anything else than spider, than armature. And it is not allowed to have the same name as this up here. I don't know why, but it just doesn't like it. Maybe they fixed it at this point, but I'm not sure. So now we can go ahead, click on the upper circle of this one. Or we don't really need this since this is the first bone, which is considered our root bone. We will just turn it around, make sure that didn't really... Whoa, what happened there? Okay, turn it around on only one axis, around 90 degrees. Make it a bit smaller. And this is gonna be our middle bone of the body. We're gonna have like a free bone structure for this body in general, and then a free bone structures for all of these legs, including a fourth bone at the end, which will not be weight. We're gonna need that for Unreal later. I will explain it though. So we're gonna have this one set straight up in the middle. That's fine, the height is okay. Side view, maybe a little bit higher. Okay. And then we'll get this one over here. We'll move it all the way there. Extrude this side for the head. And bam, the body's already done. Now is the somewhat difficult part. It just depends on how you want to do it. I personally like to have the minimal amount of bones possible, so I will just go ahead. First of all, we're gonna activate this here. X mirror axis. So if I put a bone on this side, it's gonna automatically put one on this side. So we're gonna go make a bone. Okay, wait, no, let me just delete that again. Have it be straight. So we're gonna make a bone like this. And then we go grab the bone and unparent it. Clear the parent. So now, yep, what did I say? Clear the parent. Is it not clear? Relations, okay, boom. Destroy the parent, not destroy it, just unparent it, and now we can move this bone around. I don't know why it's not making a bone on the other side, but that doesn't matter. We can just mirror it later. So okay, now that we can freely move this bone around, we will move it into position like this. Just grab this one and then put it right where the leg is gonna start. Yeah, depending on how you choose to do this is gonna be either difficult or hard finding the correct position for this. But it doesn't have to be 100%, it's just okay, since we're not doing automatic weights. It's not too terribly important. But the more precise, the better. Okay, that's fair enough, I guess. Then we're gonna grab this other part and put it all the way up into the knee joint here. Set it all the way into the middle there. Keep going from side to side. Since they're kind of off center, we can't really use our side or front or top down view. Maybe the top down view, but not really the other ones. So just check it from all sides if it's positioned correctly, and if it looks good, then you can leave it at that. Okay, now one thing that we have to consider though is if we go into our, was it here? Yep. If we go into our Spider Armature and the data section in the viewport display, we can turn on our axis. These are very important for later, otherwise, depending on how you're gonna do the IK rig, it's gonna be completely messed up and unusable. I had to fight with this quite some time until I found out this problem. But for the body, it's not that much important, since it's not gonna be really IK'd. It's the main part is gonna be the legs, and it is very important that these axes are gonna be the same along all the bones in the chain. What that means is we're just gonna go ahead, turn this one. Nope. Okay, we're just gonna roll it. Gonna roll it so it looks somewhat okay. This is gonna be pointing straight down. This is gonna be pointing straight right, and the Y is gonna be pointing forward. That is also another thing we're gonna need for the export settings, the Y, or the forward location of the bone. So always keep that position in mind as well. Okay, now that this is set correctly, we can go ahead, click here on the end of the bone, extrude it, make another bone, and put it in the next knee joint. Once again, check it from all the sides and angles, and keep moving it closer to the middle. That looks good. And now it's the roll check time. Because every time we play with this, it has a tendency to roll around. Like this roll value just arbitrarily changes for some godforsaken reason. So we're gonna check that the rotation hasn't changed too much. But this looks quite good. Yeah, I think we can leave it just like that. And once again, for the last leg, you can, if you just so choose, put one of the bones. 1 second. Get out, cats. There we go. If you so choose, you can put another bone in here, but I don't really recommend it, because this is not really a stretch part or a knee joint, and it's gonna look weird. You can have more control over how it moves, but it's just not necessary. Especially if you have rather tiny insect spiders or whatever, it's just gonna look weird, and it adds just more work to what we're doing. But once again, now we're trying to position this one as close to the tip as possible. So we can just set the z-axis to 0, since that's where we're gonna end up anyway. And then just keep rotating around it and setting the middle to the tip of that mesh. Oops, no, keep the 0 where it is. Okay. Looks fine to me. Now we're checking our roll again. It did not change that much. It's maybe roll it around a little bit. I don't know if this is gonna be important, since we're gonna use the IK rig instead of the normal control rig. And I don't know if it handles it the same or differently, but since you don't really have an input in there. Okay, now this is looks a little bit weird. Set it up so they're all in like a very straight line. Okay. Because the control rig, the simple, let's say the IK2 bone, or the basic IK node in Unreal Engine, is just gonna take these legs as an input, but then you have to input two specific axes, the primary axis and the secondary axis, which is most likely gonna be your Y axis, depending on how you set this up. it's most likely going to be the y-axis and the x-axis. So the forward-facing one and the right-facing one. So if you have these set up or turned around, so that example, the y-axis points into the completely opposite direction for some reason, or the x-axis is on the other side, it's gonna turn it around. Because you can't individually choose the secondary and primary axis for each bone. You're gonna pick it for all the bones at once, and it's gonna be applying that to all those bones at once. So that's why this is very important. Okay. But now we've set this up, we can go ahead. We'll just leave this up there. Then we're gonna just grab this one, extrude one here. Once again, unparent this bone. Hello, I said unparent, please. There we go. Because we're just gonna reparent them later, once we actually need it, or once we actually have set up all the legs. But I'm just gonna repeat this until I have all 4 legs done. So I'm just gonna fast forward this section here, since it's just gonna be the same again. All right. Okay, I went ahead, added the foot bone to each one of the feet. I think I mentioned that already. This looks good. Everything is set up correctly. I already went ahead and named all of these legs. So we're just going from the left, the first one that we started with. From the top view, we're just starting to name them. Left leg. On the left side, it's the first leg, and it's the first chain in the first bone in the chain. Then leg, left side, first leg, second bone in the chain, and so on and so on. It's not really that important. It's just it looks better, and you can work with it a bit easier next in Unreal Engine, since the bones you're gonna need are easier to find. So we're just gonna... Oh yeah, and the last ones are just called foot. So they're very easy to find, depending on how you're gonna set up your IK. Like for example, in a control rig, you can search for them by name. So actually calling them foot is much easier than just putting them in. So you can make like a for each loop for each of your feet and set it up only once, but it just keeps running through it for each of the feet. grabbing the foot and then just searching to get the parent, get the parent, get the parent, and boom, you have all the bones in one chain. Put the IK onto it, and bam, you're done. But we're not gonna do that since we're gonna use the IK rig instead of the control rig. So yeah, this looks fine so far. Now the first thing we're gonna check is our hierarchy, since that one's gonna be important later on. So all the ladder bones from the leg are already correctly set to the first bone in the chain. So now this one's gonna be a little bit interesting. This one's parented to the body middle, and so is this one. No, wait, this one's not parented to anything. So now we're just gonna parent everything to the closest bone, let's say it like that. Except for these. We're just gonna grab these and just parent all of them to the body middle. Even though it's closer to the body back, I just don't want it to have there. This could lead to some issues later on, so we're just gonna parent them all to the body middle. Body middle. 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 And middle. So they're all set up correctly. So we basically start off with the root bone. The root bone is gonna be, even though this is not a bone now, Unreal Engine is gonna change it over to, it's not really using bones per se. It's using a different kind. I forgot the name of it. But it's not really using bones, so it's gonna change this to a bone-like structure later on. So we can use that to move the entire rig without having any IK done to inside of the rig. And if we only want to move like the body, we can start using the body middle, and the feet are gonna stick where they belong. Okay, now comes the most difficult part, depending on what kind of model you have, which is much easier since we have a low poly model. So now we go ahead and we go into object mode first. Okay, now we're just gonna go in here, turn off the axis. We're not gonna need them anymore. And now we can finally see a bit clearer what's happening. Then we go to our spider mesh. Spider mesh, control, click on the spider amateur, and then what's it? Yeah, control P, and we're gonna parent them with empty groups. Most people are gonna use like automatic weights, but I don't like them. They never really had a satisfying result, especially with a lot of bones in short location to each other. It's just gonna go all kind of weird. So with shift P, control P again with empty groups, and now this is one unit. As you can see, if we click on the spider mesh in our vertex groups down here, we're gonna it made one of these groups for each of the bones that we had. And now our job is just to go ahead, go into edit mode, and now we can just go ahead and start with like the middle body, I guess, and start adding the vertices to it. What that means is we're just gonna select, like, for example, the middle part. We can see the bone, the middle bone is here. So we want like around all the vertices in the middle that kind of envelop or around the middle bone. See that we can select all of them. I'm just gonna go ahead and make that the bones not visible. I kind of know where they are, so this makes it much easier to see what I'm actually doing here. And this is not looking bad.
If we like the selection we did, we can go ahead and either remove some or add more, but this looks fair enough. Then we can just go ahead, select the middle and assign. So now we have assigned all the selected vertices to this group. And this group is gonna be controlled by the bone with the same name. So now it's actually gonna move around the vertices. I can show you that right now. If we just go back into object mode, then we select our spider armature, go into pose mode. Now we can actually see if I get this leg, turn around, nothing happens, except that the children are following it. But now that we set the vertices for the middle bone already, if I grab the middle bone, move it around, things are happening. It looks a bit weird, but we're gonna fix that. So, and this is what's makes it harder to weight paint models with much more vertices, like just way more quality models. And that's why I like having low poly models. It just makes it way easier. Otherwise, you would just go ahead, click into this, and then go into the weight painting mode. And this just looks like, what the hell is even this? If you've never seen this. But we can completely ignore that. We're not doing any stretching or something like that, so we're just gonna do it the old-fashioned way. And now we can just go to the front, select the bones, select all the vertices in the front. Don't forget the eyes as well. Have this. Bam, bam. Give me this one as well. And you can have them overlap as well. Like some of the vertices that are in this group can be in this group. And they're just gonna find like the average position of the body of the two bones, and they're just gonna be there. That's what you're gonna need weight painting for, so you can tell them which bone is gonna have more impact on the vertice. But since we're not gonna need that, it's fine. So we're just gonna assign this here. I'm just gonna do this quick and dirty. I already did this on another mesh, so but you can see how it's gonna start. So if things are moving that shouldn't move, like if I would move this leg and here something moves, then make sure to go into this bone and remove this vertice. Just select the vertice, go into the correct bone group and remove them. You can see again, if you just go to the part you want to see, you can select all the vertices that belong to that group, and then you can see which ones belong to it or not. So now we go to body back. This one's gonna be a bit more annoying. So we're just gonna select all of these like this. Circle selection tool. And the leg is kind of sticking through it a little bit, so we're gonna have to manually select those. Make sure to get all the vertices that belong to this back part here. This one, this one, this one. Over there's another one. These down here. And then we're going a little bit into the main body as well, so that we'll have a smoother movement if, as I said, the middle bone body and the backbone body are both kind of fighting over control over the same vertices, which just makes it a little look much smoother. We can go in even further. And these. So yeah, this actually gets very painful if you have like a lot of vertices. That's what weight painting is made for them. Makes it much easier for that particular reason. But for this one, this is just way more controlling, I say. Okay, body back, assign, boom. If I select them, move them around, you can see it's gonna move all of these. That's looks great. Okay. Now we go to our first leg bone, which is gonna be L, the first one on the left side. And this is the only tricky part, is a little bit here on the body. Select only the ones that actually belong to the leg. This one, maybe this one. Boop, boop, and boop. Okay, and then we can just go ahead and grab these ones. And we're gonna grab half of the knee joint. All right, that looks good. Assign those, go on to the next leg. And then here, once again, we're gonna grab half of the knee joint. So once again, that both bones are gonna fight over the positions of these two. So they're gonna be like somewhere in the middle of where they should be. Grab these and half of these. And assign them. Once again, next bone, grab half of these. Oops. Wait a minute. Did it turn around something on it? Nope. Okay. These and this one. And assign them. The foot is gonna stay empty. That one does not need any weights. We just need that for later. Okay, this means our first leg is actually already set up. So we can just select our amateur here. Go into pose mode, select this leg or this one, and the leg is actually moving. It is doing what it's supposed to. Isn't that great? And this is kind of where we can go into the nitty-gritty details. As you can see here, the knee joints, for example. It's not as visible on this one since it only has like one vertex they're fighting over. But if you don't like how it moves, you can just either remove it from one of the bones until it looks good. But I kind of like how this stretches, so this is fine. And now we're just gonna do this all for all the other legs. It is a little bit time consuming, but it is what it is. Automatic weights are probably not gonna cut it, since there are too many bones too close to each other, so it's just gonna have the vertices on all the fucking bones everywhere, and it's just gonna be a mess. So this is the only way we can have a actually useful result later on. So I'm just gonna once again fast forward until I got all these set up. Okay, I basically set up all the things now. All the weights are set. We can go ahead and test them once again just to see, because it may be possible that every now and then another one, like a vertex from this leg, is gonna sneak into one of this because I accidentally clicked it somehow without noticing. It is possible, but we're just gonna go ahead and test it out, see if anything is being weird. So give me a see-through look, give me this bone over here. It moves the entire body. Our root bone is working as expected. Then the behind, not looking shabby. Wee. That does what it's supposed to. Bam. Yeah, this is generally looking very good. So we've basically set up the entire thing now. So we can go ahead, go back into object mode. So we can actually see our boy. Look at him, he's so cute. And now we can actually go ahead and port him over to Unreal Engine. So what we have to do is, first of all, click on our spider armature, hold shift, click on our spider mesh, so everything in between also is being selected. Then we go to File, Export, FBX. I'll just use our test folder once again. And then here we have our very important settings. These are already being set, so I'm just gonna restore our default. Some of them are gonna be changing. First of all, we only want the selected objects and only the armature and mesh, so there's literally no way anything else can slip into it. Then our transform has to change it a little bit. The only thing is the scale you can either scale it up here if you know the exact scale that you're gonna use, if you don't want to work in this mode with such a high scale amounts, but doesn't really matter. The only important thing is, first of all, was it the Z as well? I think it was the Z as well. Yeah, first of all, we have to change selected, armature and mesh. Then our up bone is always gonna be our Z up, and the forward bone is the direction our bones should be facing forward. As we saw earlier, that is most likely gonna be one of the Y, since the X was always either to the right or to the left. We're just gonna go with, I think the positive direction was in the, oh, let's check that again. So we're just gonna go into our spider armature, turn on the axis again, and as we can see, the Y is the positive Y is the actual bone direction. So select these again, export, FBX, and our forward is gonna be the positive Y. It doesn't really matter how you set it up. Either you set it up according to what the bone is right now, or you're just gonna check which one is here, and then you're gonna work your rig into the one that you actually need here. But it's just easier to set these up later on. So apply units or use transfer. This is fine. Geometry, the thing we want to change here. Usually it's on normals only, but that sometimes, or a lot of the times actually, can cause some difficulty with the rendering of the mesh. So we're just gonna change it to phase, and that actually instantly solves most of your issues that are related to the visual stability of the mesh. We're just not gonna change any of these. All of these are fine. Armature. These can be as they want. We don't want any. Doesn't really matter. We're just gonna. No, they might throw out our foot bone, so we're not gonna select this one. And we don't want any leaf bones, since we did actually break the chain. It might add some unnecessary leaf bones there, so we generally never want leaf bones going into UE. And animations, we only need that if we actually did some animation in Blender and want them over in Unreal Engine. But I would highly suggest either using the IK rig for some animation, or make another control rig in Unreal Engine and actually animate it inside Unreal Engine. Anyway, these are all the settings that we're gonna need. Once again, only selected transforms, check the forward bone and the up bone rotation. These are the most important ones. Probably, at least for the basic IK in the control rig. I'm not sure if the IK rig handles it differently. But we're just gonna assume it does. So, smooth facing. Alright, this looks good. And then save. So now we should be done in Blender. So now we're switching over to Unreal Engine. We're just gonna go over here, get rid of this, and import the just created file. If I can find it, where the heck did I put it? Test FBX, there we go. Okay, the important settings for this one is we definitely want a skeleton mesh. That is very important that it imports that. So there should nothing be in here unless you're re-importing. So it actually does import the skeleton. We definitely want the skinning weights. Geometry only is if you haven't done any skinning. So, but since we did a skeletal mesh and we did the weight painting, quote unquote, we do want the skinning weights. We don't want any animations. We don't have those. The transform, we don't need to change anything there. Nothing has to change here. So yeah, that's basically it. We can just click. We don't have any morph targets either. The only thing could be if you have on Blender, if you have certain modes, like this current mesh has not been smooth, but if you want the smooth action, if you apply that in Blender and you actually want it to happen in Unreal Engine as well, you should import the normals and the tangents. We're just gonna do that anyway, because I wanted to definitely keep the polygon look, so we're just gonna import it now. And everything should be fine. We have our skeleton, our physics asset, which is not gonna be needed since this one's gonna be whack anyway. Yep, completely out of proportion. But this is much better than the last time I did it, for some reason. Last time I just added like 2 tiny bubbles into the middle of the main body. Well, I guess we can keep it like that. Okay, now we go to our test skeleton. Everything is applied, skins are applied. Oh, yep, we can already see some small issues with these. Okay, apparently I lied, we're not done here yet. So, since I fucked around with the mesh a little bit, we're just gonna go ahead, select them all. Go to mesh, go to normals, and recalculate the outside normals. This should have fixed whatever issue we just had. And for one last safety measure, we're just gonna go ahead and go into the UV editing. This looks terrible. So we're just gonna go ahead, select all of these, UV, smart UV project, do some margin here, minimal, and actually have a decent UV. Okay, then we can go ahead, once again, select all these, export them. I really recommend just saving the settings as a preset so you don't have to constantly restore them. So I call them just export to UE, select the export settings, and overwrite the last file we have. Then we're going back into here. Open our content drawer, re-import this thing, boom, the legs are fixed. So it was an issue with the normals, as I suspected. All right, perfect. So now we have the working mesh here. Our skeleton is looking fine. See what it did there? It took our root bone. I mean, I guess it didn't really take the root bone, the one I called root. It just deleted that one basically and used this one here as the actual amateur bone. But it definitely does consider it as a bone, since I can go ahead and turn it around. Please unrotate again. Okay, good. But as we can see, the hierarchy is looking pretty good. This is exactly what we wanted. We want the main thing, our big root, to be the actual thing that we can use to move around the entire rig, if we so choose. We generally won't need that, but just in case. We have our body middle, which is going to be the actual root. That one is connected to all of the other ones that lead to the legs. We have the back in the middle, which is just connected to the middle. The body back, which is just connected to the middle. The body front, which is also just connected to the middle. And then we have each of the legs separately. Everything where it belongs. And as we can see, the foot bone is kind of grayed out. That is because, as it says, this bone is used by the current mesh but has no vertices weighted against it, which is completely fine, since now it doesn't do anything. But we're gonna use this right now to get the correct position of the tip of our spider leg. Otherwise, if we would not have this last bone, it would just go up here to the last bone it can find, and then we would have to do all the calculations from this point on. That means every time we're doing a step or something like that, we would have to calculate or set an offset from the ground that encompasses the length of this entire leg. Otherwise, it would just be completely whack. Or it would just run, without the offset, it would just run. Can I mimic that right now? Can I just move this? Oh yes, it would just move around like this. If I do like a trace and tell it to, trace this to the bottom and apply the transform to it, it's just gonna stay there. And that's why the last foot bone is very important for our endeavor here. So it saves us a lot of mathing. But since we're not using the control rig, we don't really need much math anyway. Since I found out that this is ridiculously simple to use, we're just gonna go up to our skeletal mesh, and then we're gonna create an IK rig. And there we have it. It is beautiful. The only thing we have to do is we add a new solver. We could need 2 solvers, a body solver, and a body mover solver, and a full body IK solver. The body mover is gonna get the body middle part as the selected solver. And it also gets the goal for it. We just set a goal and boom, we've set up the mover solver already. So we can just grab this thing over here, move it around a little bit. Oh, come on, grab it. You did not grab it? Fine. Make this size a little bit. There we go. Now I can actually grab it. So now if I move this body mover thing, it's gonna move the body. I mean, makes sense, right? Obvious. But reset this. If we go ahead now and use the full body IK with our body middle as the missing root bone, set a root bone on selected solver. And then we just go to each of our feet, add a new goal, new goal, new IK goal for each one of these bad boys. And we're basically done. So if I just go ahead and move this one now again. Whoop. I think it's very important they are set on the correct order as well. Come on, let me grab it. Nope. Okay, ready to run tests. Yeah, then why is it not? Okay, wait, give me this one. Alright. Something is amiss here. Alright, there we go. Now we've seen some. You see this? This is perfect. It actually moves like it's supposed to do. And we've basically set up nothing. The solving is very good as well. Like, normally it would just bend into each other if you would get too close to like the main body. But it's actually doing a decent job of solving the goddamn IK chain. So you could have it sit like this, like perched on a goddamn thing somewhere on a ledge, just barely grasping the edge of it. So now if I move, why is this one not moving? The body middle IK goal. It has a body mover. Goal set. Well, this is a question for later. But yeah, we do have the working legs. The legs are working. And as you can see, the more legs I move upwards, the more my actual body also moves after them. I can select multiple of these. And it will just move with it. And now if the body move actually would work, that would be great. Let me see. Was it like this? No. Ah, yeah, I think all of these needed to be connected to this goal as well. Yeah, okay, that looks much better now. Let's change the order of operation again. There we go. This is exactly what we wanted. All right, perfect. So, okay, to reframe that, each of these solvers needs a goal on each of the legs. So leg 1 has a solver for the body mover and the full body IK. And the body mover needs to be the first in the chain, apparently. Okay. Now we got that down here. And now it just looks... it looks ridiculously good. If you would try to do this in the IK rig, then you would have a hard time replicating this. You would need like a pole vector. First of all, we have 3 bones that we're trying to move. But this one is just, it just works out of the box. And once again, like, for example, I have like 4 of these legs on the wall and the other one's going on the ground as they're supposed to be. Yeah, this is basically it. And now we can just go ahead, now that we set up our IK rig, we can go ahead, go back to our test spider over here, create an animation blueprint, go to our search for our IK rig, plug it in, Rig definition, rig test. Our asset is applied to our spider, and it's currently working. So now the thing is, we do have to go into each of these goals. And for this one example, for example, go down here all the way to exposure and expose the position. And if you need, but it's probably going to be useless since rotating it does nothing unless you set up a specific thing for it. But just for moving around the legs, rotation is not going to be needed. The only needed is the position, so we're just going to expose that one. And the another important thing is for each of these, we will have to set the was it this? Oh no, it was not here. Okay, yeah, we set each of these goals to expose the position. Okay, even the body middle. And now we go over here and we can see we have a bunch of pins over here. But this means that now we can just go ahead and start animating it. Now we can start driving the skeleton that we just completely made from scratch. We can start driving it with whatever calculations we made with a new Unreal Engine. Do we have a sign? No, we certainly do not, but that's fine. Oh yeah, this is basically how we set up a very quick and simple IK rig from scratch, unless you're doing the mesh from scratch as well. But this does actually work for, it doesn't matter how many feet you have. The only thing that's going to change is the amount of pins you're going to have to struggle with. But yeah, on the next time we're gonna see how we actually gonna calculate all these movements so this actually looks like a moving spider. Until then, adios.